You've been lying to me. I know that you have another wife. No wonder you never sleep in this house with us.
You're merely covering up a lie with another lie. Stand by that promise you made to your son. Now's the time. Now's the time to divorce Ines. I'm so desperate, for heaven's sake.
Listen, Nubian. I have no idea what you're doing in Playa Linda. And I don't know what kind of trouble you're in, but I will not be your accomplice. Is that clear?
So it really is true.
Adrian.
Mtoto wapi?
Yuko ndani, bado daktari anamwangalia.
Na huyu mwanamke sitaki kumuona hapa.
Kawaida ya mwanamke anayemjali mtoto wake hukuwa katika hali hii wakati kama huu.
Mnaelewa vizuri sana ni sababu gani ambayo inatufanya tukae chini hapa pamoja.
Nice try. Oh no, sweetheart. I was not trying.
So watakuniacha ma?
Nipe sababu ya kubaki na wewe.
Deep inside Kenya's biggest slum, a wedding is underway. Song and dance. The Nubian culture is in full display. This is known as Sela.
And today we are here because of a wedding ceremony that is to be held tomorrow. But before the wedding, there's always a process that is followed, which includes the bride price.
The procession is headed to the bride's homestead. Sela is a ceremony that begins right after the girl's family accepts to give their daughter away in marriage.
It is like a ceremony. It is something very, very ceremonious. Or the groom-to-be's family walks all the way from their home to the bride's home, carrying the gifts on their heads, singing and dancing.
The groom's family marches towards the bride's home, the pace determined by how far the bride's home is. It is a march of jubilation, and they don't come empty-handed, but come bearing gifts carefully balanced on their heads. The gifts are carried by the groom's female cousins. The first wife from the groom's family also carries the incense that in the Nubian culture wards off the evil eye as they journey to the bride's family, accompanied by more song and dance.
The procession is always led by the first wife in the family, or the groom's sister-in-law. And she carries a big plate that is a sinia. Inside the sinia, there is an urn, which they put charcoal, and small saucers. Inside the saucers, we have, incense.
The dance, popularly known as Matwari, is usually led by young men from the community.
This one, you find young men with small drums, and they beat, escorting the bridal gifts.
Once the procession gets to the bride's home, it has to be received by 2 or 3 elderly women, usually aunties from the bride's side. Without this welcome, the groom's family cannot enter the home.
This family is normally not allowed into the compound, no. Until somebody comes and gives them an okay, then they walk with the bridal gifts into the bride's compound.
The gift bearers then enter the homestead and go around the sitting area 7 times. This is done to ward off evil spirits within the compound.
After going around 7 times, then they place the gifts down. Auntie to the bride will come and open the gifts, and then it shows that it has been accepted, and then the ceremony is over for the day.
Once their gifts are accepted, the union of the two families is complete. The seller is termed successful.
For over 150 years, Nubians have existed in Kenya, majority living here in Kibra. But for the first time in 2019, they were counted as Nubians in the Kenya National Census, not as others, but as Nubians. Reporting for KBC in Kibra, Nairobi County, Amnesty Emmanuel.
Taita Taveta County, located 140 kilometers from Mombasa town, boasts of a diverse geographical semi-arid field coupled with a rich ecosystem and home to distinctive wildlife across the East African region, a breathtaking sight to behold. At the heart of the Taita people, also known as Dawida, and deep down the slopes of Wundanyi in Taita Taveta County, lies the Sacred Skull Caves. The caves in Mwanda location belong to the Mwafunjangomenyi clan. We arrive in Mwazo location, our mission, to learn more about their cultural significance. Far from what we expected, we were informed of a fee we are required to pay before going down the hill to the caves, including other conditions. So we return without accomplishing our mission. 1 week later, we are set to give it a fresh attempt, having addressed the fee concern. But when we call our contacts to inform them of our readiness, we are slapped with another unique condition. We should ensure none of us has shared a bed with their spouse at least 2 days prior to visiting the caves. Alas, the day is finally here. We are received by 2 village heads who guide our walk down the cave, and no mean feat indeed. After 45 minutes, we get to the entrance of the cave. And we are taken through the laid down rules and regulations.
Kabla tujaingia hapa nyumbani, lazima tufanye maombi ili tukiingia hapo mtu yote asipatwe na janga lolote. Tunapoingia hapa ndani, huwa tuvai viatu. Kwa hivyo tukitoka hapa, tukiingia hapa ndani, kila mtu awe ametoa nini? Ametoa viatu.
From here, we wait for chanting prayers, and this is how it goes.
Alomba, Morio, Zaranbai, Vandu kapma apkaye na pinana, Vandu wende skirane, Nungu sebo nemba kusaya, Vake njibedu wende basha Vakawe wende pinana, Sena wende vuwe, Venje malaka kimbiri, Wende biche,
2 spits of the local Mbagarag brew as well as a few chants are enough to appease the saints to grant us access into the holding area. Time to proceed to respective entry points depending on gender. Having removed our shoes, we proceeded to offer a goat sacrifice, another ritual to appease the saints, but this time the men have to be separated from the women. The goat must be strangled to get the intestines, which the seer uses to encode or interpret the communication from the saints. After they are carefully dissected out of the goat's belly, they are handed over to a seer while the rest of the meat is roasted.
Tueleza mahali tunalekea sawa, ama kuna mahali tumekosea, ama tuna mafanikio yote.
A quick study by the seer, who plays the role of the messenger between the saints and the locals, reveals the answers we have been waiting for.
Katika upande wao, katika hii kizazi yao walikuwa wanatafuta, hapa kumekufa kote hapa. Naona hapa hivi. Lakini huyu mama, hii huwa kwetu tunaiita ni mama, ni mama wa kitambo sasa. Mkamsenge, mkamsenge hii hapa ngwa nyodo. Ani ni titi hili. Liko limejaa tena limejaa vizuri. Vile alikuwa anaangalia mambo yao yako sawa si mabaya, nikubalika. Lakini katika matambiko ya kitamaduni ya Kitaita wanawake hawaruhusiwi kwenda hapo kwa nini kwa kutoa hiyo nini matambiko ya kutumia pombe ya kienyeji.
We now have the right to access the caves accompanied by 3 village elders. We're about to enter the Skull Caves. Tradition continues. Join me next week as we explore the Mwafunja Ngomenyi shrines. I'm Njue Karisambele for My Culture.
Deep inside Kenya's biggest slum, a wedding is underway. Song and dance. The Nubian culture is in full display. This is known as Sela.
And today we are here because of wedding ceremony that is to be held tomorrow. But before the wedding, there's always a process that is followed, which includes the bride price.
The procession is headed to the bride's homestead. Sela is a ceremony that begins right after the girl's family accepts to give their daughter away in marriage.
It is like a ceremony. It is something very, very ceremonious. Or the groom-to-be's family walks all the way from their home to the bride's home, carrying the gifts on their heads, singing and dancing.
The groom's family marches towards the bride's home, the pace determined by how far the bride's home is. It is a march of jubilation, and they don't come empty-handed, but come bearing gifts carefully balanced on their heads. The gifts are carried by the groom's female cousins. The first wife from the groom's family also carries the incense that in the Nubian culture wards off the evil eye as they journey to the bride's family, accompanied by more song and dance.
The procession is always led by the first wife in the family, or the groom's sister-in-law. And she carries a big plate that is a senior. Inside the senior, there is an urn, which they put charcoal, and small saucers. Inside the saucers, we have, incense.
The dance, popularly known as Matwari, is usually led by young men from the community.
This one, you find young men with small drums, and they beat, escorting the bridal gifts.
Once the procession gets to the bride's home, it has to be received by 2 or 3 elderly women, usually aunties from the bride's side. Without this welcome, the groom's family cannot enter the home.
This family is normally not allowed into the compound, no. Until somebody comes and gives them an okay, then they walk with the bridal gifts into the bride's compound.
The gift bearers then enter the homestead and go around the sitting area 7 times. This is done to ward off evil spirits within the compound.
So after going around 7 times, then they place the gifts down. Auntie to the bride will come and open the gifts, and then it shows that it has been accepted, and then the ceremony is over for the day.
Once their gifts are accepted, the union of the 2 families is complete. The Sela is termed successful. Reporting for KBC, I'm Nisi Imano Okoth.
from childhood to adulthood. This group of no less than 300 came here 14 days ago to undergo the Kikuyu rite of passage, Irua, meaning circumcision, and are now living as young men, commonly referred to as anake in the Kikuyu culture.
Hii inafanyika tuseme kwa zile counties sana sana ambaye watu yetu wako, lakini inafanyika mpaka Mombasa, mpaka Lamu, mpaka huko Eldoret, huko Uasin Gishu. Hali wote watu wako wiko kwa sababu chama yetu imeenea mpaka huko.
Horoyo ne totiokuwa na itheru tondu to horo irua ukoro wira wa thuri nikyo tonyita na hinyogu na kogo ne twendaga twambiriria tone wira wa thuri tukaurekereria na njira ya yagirire togo twarekia muthenya wa muthi.
According to the elders under the auspices of Kiama, the culture is keen to ensure that boys need not only understand the rite of passage, but what is expected of them after the transition to adulthood.
Nitwenda makamenya wira wa mwanake ni uriku. Mawira maria agirire kuruta tariu mucii besides githomo. Tondu thukuru ri ni marathomithio maundu mathabu, ma geographia, ma history na maria mangi. No riri mwanake onage githomo kiu kia mafuku ni ekobatara githomo gia kumukuria meciria weta mwanake njira tukamuonia njira ya gwiciriria ithathia Ngai tuthai anake tuthai ithathia Ngai tuthai
uri muikoyo muthuri mwetigeri Ngai na koguo ni twitaga Ngai o muthenya turorete Kirinyaga koguo ni tumonetie mahoya macio.
Tangu nikuja hapa naweza sema ni kuzuri sababu nimesoma vitu mingi, mambo kama kujijua, self awareness, na also kuwa na discipline na kuacha kudharau watu hivi.
Typically, after circumcision, the boy, Kahe, spends 9 days learning what it means to become an adult. The significance of the 9 days, you wonder?
Gemisia mwana wa Kahe na 5, gemisia mwana wa Kairitu na 4. Icio cigoka cigana ciothe kenda. Mwana nake agaikara thiini wa nda ya nyina mĩeri kenda. Nikio tukorwo twathĩtwo nĩ ũndũire atĩ kĩganda nakuo tũikare thikũ kenda tutegũtara mũthenya wa graduation, na mĩthenya ĩyo yothe gũtirĩ mũthenya ũtarĩ bata waguo thĩinĩ wa meharĩrĩria nĩ ũndũ wa kĩrĩra.
With the young men recovering, it is believed that their dietary needs must be of paramount importance, and they are required to eat 6 meals a day, a responsibility that is often entrusted with parents as they pick their sons.
Watoto wanalewa na wazazi wawili. Kwa hivyo ndio umeona hapa wanachanganyana. Iko akina mama, iko akina baba, na kama vile ulisikia vile hivi vijana wanafundishwa na ile mawaidha inapewa wazazi, iko ile mama atafanya. Kama hii watoto lazima wakule sana. Unaona hii sasa umri yao ni ile yao kukua, sasa lazima watakula sana. Sasa nani napikia watoto? Si ni mama. Kwa hivyo tunajumuisha watu yote. Wazee wako na jukumu yao, akina mama wa jukumu yao.
As the popular Swahili proverb says, mwacha mila ni mtumwa, Kiama has been carrying out circumcision of boys all over the country, particularly in central Kenya, as they believe that it is about time Kikuyus reclaimed their culture.
Kijana yako ya kwanza na ametairi, hata wewe unaruka gazi kwa uzee, unakuwa ile naita maybe junior elder, right? Na mama, wale mama anatoa zile vitu alikuwa anavaa za aina nyingine, na akikutana na mtu anajua huyu si mama ile mrembo, huyu sasa amekomaa kwa sababu ya ile kitu amevaa kwa masikio.
In the context of circumcision, the Kiama remains adamant that different institutions should stick to their different roles so as not to mislead the public.
Kazi ya kutairiza watoto ni ya wazee, na ile ningetaka kuhimiza sana ni kwa wanaume wenzangu. Umeona kama hapa iko vijana wameletwa na mama zao. Hiyo si kawaida na ni mbaya sana. Na saa hiyo baba yake yuko labda ako kambi anabwagia pombe. Na sisi hatuambii wanaume wakae na bibi zao. Kama walitengana sawa, lakini kijana yao akifika hapa washikane, wamlete pamoja. Tuko pamoja, wamlete pamoja, wamkabidhi kwa wazee.
This is indeed the fourth day of the fifth month, 2022. Good morning. This is KBC News Check, and before we begin, let me first apologize for the delay in the beginning of the program, and thank you so much for making time. And of course, today, as we always do on News Check, we do endeavor to ensure that we keep you afloat with all the latest happening in the country and in real time, and also discussing topical issues that affect you wherever you are, on even on a national scale. My name is Bentroy Njue, and Susan Thuku will be our sign language interpreter for this first hour that we're going to be discussing a topical issue. Then we'll be discussing matters politics in our second hour. Well, you will agree with me that when it comes to teenage pregnancies in the country, it has been quite rampant, and the situation in Kenya was not very well or very good in the recent past, has not been good. But as we were tackling COVID-19, the situation was exacerbated, and we have some startling figures. Actually, to be on the right figures, we're talking about this year alone, the ministry did talk about 45,000 cases of teenage pregnancies. That is something that we should, as a country, be keen to ensure that these statistics are lowered, if at all. And to be even more into the statistics is that we have over 2,000, out of the 45,000, 2,000 were as a result of sexual and gender-based violence. That is a discussion that we are going to be looking at. Of course, in the country, there are a number of news-making headlines that we are also keeping our eyes peeled for. We have the Azimio secretariat that is scouting for a running mate who will be giving a presser. They will be actually today they are at the Serena Hotel. Later on, we also have the Northern Kenya MP's presser on insecurity in the region. You have seen the government has even fortified and even issued curfew in some parts of the country, in Marsabit included. And also our little ones, our Form 1s, are supposed to be joining secondary, life and secondary today. And we also have digital access program partners and also economic forum running in Kisii. That's just some of the news shaping headlines that we will be keen to ensure that we bring you in a more comprehensive report in our news articles. That said, now joining me to discuss this pertinent issue, two ladies. They have been in the industry and ensuring that the girl child is not only empowered but is taken care of for a while. I have two distinguished ladies from the God Will Provide Kenya, and today we are discussing matters teenage pregnancies. On my immediate left, we have Joy Feni Omolo. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And on my extreme left, we have Luce Mombi Okelo.
Thank you.
Karibu tena.
Thank you so much.
And of course, thank you for making time for this show. Now, looking at, we talk about teenage pregnancies. There are a lot of things that we have to look at. We have to look at the sexual-based violence. We also have to look at the abandonment. Others are abandoned. We have to look at the matters, sanitary pads. We have to look at this holistically, this issue holistically. But you have been in the industry and you have been able to at least assist. Tell us how this program began, because looking at God Will Provide Kenya, it has a lot that it does. Now, when it comes to matters teenage and ensuring that the teenagers are not only taken care of, they are protected from all aspects that are detrimental to their good life?
Thank you so much. It is a big issue that is affecting the entire country. And being born and bred in Homa Bay County, and Homa Bay County being the second leading, it's a sad issue. In one of the projects outside there, we came across one girl who didn't go to school on a school day. And we gained interest to ask much, to know what the problem was. At first, she was shy. She didn't tell us the problem. But with time, as we engaged her in conversations, she opened up and said, I'm on my menses. I can't afford sanitary towels. That's why I'm not in school. We inquired much. She was staying with a grandmother who was not in a position to afford a pack of sanitary towel. When we went back, we thought about it. If in this locality, in this location, we have one girl, what about other sub-counties in Homa Bay County? What about other counties in Kenya? So we sat down and discussed. And we said we're not going to sit and watch as this happens. That is how we started this initiative.
And Lucy, perhaps you can pick from where Joy has left, and looking at some parts of the country, there is abject poverty. I do remember we were speaking with Newton Ogada a couple of weeks ago, and he said that we are talking about sanitary pads.
Yes.
But even to put food on the table is an issue.
Yeah.
Let alone any other thing. But at least you guys were able to come in and chip in. Tell us how from there you began helping, and what exactly made you, and of course there are some cash inflows, and you have to spend some money, you have to spend some resources, you have to move from one place to another. Tell us how the journey has been.
Okay, then after what Joy has just explained, after we sat down as an organization, we involved our director, then we saw there's a need for us to think about the other girl. So we thought of a way where we could reach a good number of girls. So we knew the only way is through schools, both high schools and primary schools. So we visited a few schools within the locality, and we talked with the teachers, we engaged the teachers, and they agreed it was an issue. So as we discussed, we saw maybe we can start with what we have. The organization just came in, and what the little we had, we bought some sanitary towels, and we visited the first school. And then after the first school, other school heard what we were doing, and then they started calling us. We also have a need. We also have girls who are not coming to school, maybe 3 days, 4 days in a month, because they have this issue. Some of them are living with the grandparents who don't have, they don't think that as a basic need to a girl. They tell them, oh, we went through that. They could use different things at that time, but nowadays things have changed. If they use whatever was being used at that time, maybe they feel they're not comfortable, they might soil themselves. Then you see there's shame after you see a girl is bleeding, and so that's how we came in. So we started going to schools. We give them sanitary towels. We do rotation. Maybe we went to a certain school this month. We can give a girl like 3 packets. Then we'll rotate back. After 3 months, we know there's a girl who is still in need. So we say, even if we don't go to that school specifically, we'll send, so that the continuity is there. So that girl, even if I'm on my menses, I have something to sort me out.
And Lucy, looking at, Joy, looking at the year 2020, 2021, there have been by far some of the challenges here that Kenyans and young ladies have had, and especially because of COVID-19. How are you able to stay afloat? Because this is a program that you started back then. The COVID came, you still remained afloat. You're still doing it today. Have you even had partners to assist in this noble gesture?
We've not had partners. We've been doing it from our side, as God will provide. We've engaged some few friends and some well-wishers, and it is our request that if we can get partners, so that we stretch our hands and wings to reach as many girls as possible, because when we are talking about 45,000, it's not a small number. 45,000 teenage pregnancies, it's not a small number, because that means 98 girls get pregnant every day. Yes.
And it's a serious situation.
Yeah.
And still looking at the startling figures, information is power, is key. If these young ladies know that sometimes they are being exploited, and the cases by border operators in 2020 and 2021 is that some had actually to do what they had to put not only food and even things like sanitary pads, because the situation was so dire. But they lack information. Some don't know that that is abuse. 2,000 cases. We're talking about January and February. 2,000 cases of teenage pregnancies based on sexual and gender-based violence. You know, you just don't provide pads. You also have to empower them with information. Are you doing that?
Yes, thank you for that. We go to schools. We don't just go there, we give them pads. We do what we call sexual reproductive health education. We don't just engage the girls. We take both the boys and the girls who are at the adolescent stage. Because why we picked on the boys, sometimes you talk to a girl who is pregnant, maybe 14, 15, 16 years old, and when you get to ask, who is the father of this child you're carrying? And then they'll tell you there's a student who is in Form 3. So you see, if you just talk to the girls alone, you're missing the point. So you have to tell them, you have to tell the boys, no, you have to abstain from sex. And maybe sometimes you go a little bit far, you talk even about family planning. Yeah, we bring that issue so that when you give them sexual reproductive health, they'll know the need and the need for them to abstain from the act. Yes.
And Joy, Lucy has brought about an interesting view to also educate the boys. And when you talk about sexual reproduction health, it was tried, you know, for years. We've talked about this should be embedded in the curriculum to ensure that our young boys and girls grow up knowing matters of reproduction. And in the country, it's like it's never really kicked off, because in some countries, like developed countries, of which we heavily borrow, is that this is something that students, pupils get as soon as they are in school, as soon as they are in their teen years. They are taught a lot about reproduction health, both boys and girls. That is not happening in the country.
It's not happening in the country. And personally, I would point fingers at the parents, because parents have failed big time in matters sexual reproductive health, because they don't talk to their teens about this. So when you introduce it in school, it is something that is so new. And with the current technology, you get kids watching movies that leads them to early sex without even the parents knowing. Apart from that, our teachers get it so hard to start explaining reproductive health to a standard 8 pupil, because this is something that should start immediately the boy turns 13, immediately the girls turn 13, so that it makes it easy for a country to know how to go about it. Yes.
And an interesting one, she's talking about parents absconding some of their duties, because I'm looking at my 11-year-old daughter, and well, when she's at school, perhaps she's taught this, but when she comes home, the family setup is like there's nothing. Do you concur with Joy that parents have a duty that they have absconded?
Yes, I concur with her. Even I can give just an example. There's a day I met a 13-year-old girl. Okay, I work in the hospital. So when she came, she had some pains here and there. And then when I just inquired, she's talking about she had started her period. That was her first time. She didn't know what was happening. She didn't have, they live with the father. He's a single parent. So this girl is not comfortable to talk to the parent. Even the dad is also not comfortable to talk to the issue, to share with the daughter. So when she just came in, I saw she doesn't have that knowledge, which is very important at that stage. So if the parents are not in that position, who do we leave this girl? Who will talk to this young girl? So if you go to school, you get a good number of them. So by that, we'll still give them the right information. We'll talk to them. Then they get to ask questions. We share, and they go home. Maybe they are even they're better than the way we met them.
And the government has started some projects, and also some companies chipped in. I remember even the First Lady has been on the forefront in ensuring that the girl child is empowered. Not only empowered, is that is taken care of. And some of these projects do not get to the remote parts of the country, like Homa Bay, as you say. Kilifi and Kwale are also leading the statistics with so many young pregnant ladies.
If the government can narrow it down from the national government to the county government, I think it can be easy, because the moment the national government starts this program, if the county government does not pick it or does not put in more effort, it will die at the national level, hence increasing the numbers at the county level. And that is one factor that if we can all think about from the grassroots level to the national government, I think it can save us big time from all these teenage pregnancies.
And Lucy, the government via the Ministry of Health, they talk about there is an uptick of contraceptives by these teenage girls.
Yes.
And it said it is illegal. Of course, you're not supposed to be using contraceptives unless you're an adult. But looking at the statistics is that a lot are seeking healthcare providers for contraceptives, which the government says it's highly illegal, and they have dire consequences for those who are arrested. I don't know whether I've never come across those who have been arrested and prosecuted, but it is very tough on teenage use of contraceptives. But the cases that we are seeing, do you think that perhaps this is something that they should be a little bit open to explore?
Yes.
Because they are using.
Yes, they are using. They come to the hospital even without the knowledge of the parents. They'll come, they tell you, I have a boyfriend, and they are practicing the act of sex. So they are coming to seek advice from you. Which family planning do you think I can use? And maybe you inquire, have you talked to your parent? No, I can't. Because if she or he knows, I'll be in trouble. So if the parent would understand, like there's need, and the girl knows she's engaging herself with the boy in this act, this will still increase the number of teenage pregnancies. Why don't we just open up and accept that there's need for these young girls? We just guide them, you just counsel them, you just talk to them. Tell them, even if you're using this contraceptive, don't forget about other things, like sexually transmitted infections. So because if you just give them contraceptive method, they'll think it's just a free will. Now you can just go and practice and have unsafe sex. So even if you're giving contraceptive, don't forget about issues of other STIs. Yes.
And when we are talking about teenage pregnancies, we are also looking at some of retrogressive cultural practices like early marriages. They are rampant in Homa Bay, they are rampant in Kilifi, they are rampant in northeastern provinces, the larger northeastern. And that is something that we can say it's adding to the problem that we already have. We even have FGM, early marriages. But the society is a little bit quiet on this. And also the government is not quite tough on this.
When we talk of cultural practices, we still have disco matanga going down, and we have area chief, assistant chiefs. What are they doing about this? Are they leaving all this to the parents? If they still encourage these cultural practices, then it means we are still going to have higher numbers. If we can all agree to stop teenage pregnancies, then early marriages, disco matanga, these cultural practices, I think should be looked into with a lot of seriousness.
And still talking of these cases, a lot of cases are the ones that are not reported. We might have the statistics, yes, but it's not the true reflection of the situation on the ground. Meaning, the situation could be a little bit bad in some counties when it comes to teenage pregnancies. SGBV as well. But the cases are not reported. They don't even give confidence to somebody perhaps who have had has gone through some of the retrogressive cultural practices that we're talking about. They are not reported, so they're just there. And the government perhaps and other agencies should be a little bit keener on this, because if you don't know how to report, yes, indeed, the Kenya Police Service has talked about a gender desk in every police station, but really, we should be seeing a lot happening. If we have these statistics, we also expect to be having a higher number of cases that are not only reported, but are sorted out.
Yeah, no, to talk on that, you will get to see there's some girls who are defiled, some are raped, and this one will lead. Sometimes they talk to the parent, they tell them what has happened. Some will go report to the police, yes, but what will happen after that? They'll go back, the chief, or the police maybe, or the chief, or whoever they report to, they just go tell them, please go talk it out at home, go sort it out. Even if they go, then there's issues even of corruption, even involving such serious matter as teenage pregnancy. So maybe one person is arrested, they're arrested, and then after a period of a few days, you'll still see them outside there, and next time you'll hear they have defiled another girl. Why don't the law follow this guy up to the end? If they need to be put and locked up, I think that will be a good thing. So the government should be a bit serious on this.
Maybe, maybe just to add on what Lucy has said, or we should use the law to punish rapists so that it doesn't come back, it doesn't rotate. Because the moment you set this guy free, it means the same will happen to another girl tomorrow. Maybe it's a relative. The rapist is a relative. You report the matter to the police. You are told, can you go and square it as a family? You've not stopped what happened. You've not solved the issue. You are still, it's like you are encouraging the act to go on. You are still encouraging the guy to continue doing this, knowing very well that there is nothing that is going to happen.
Yes, and still on the same, we are looking at some of the cases are perpetuated by people these little girls know very well.
Yeah.
Incidentally, coincidentally, some are even relatives.
Yeah. True.
The cases, like in parts of northern Kenya, they sit around, some wazee sit on a baraza, they discuss, they have a few goats or a few cows, and then the matter is rested, not even giving justice for someone who has been abused. But these cases, despite the fact that we have a robust judicial system, they never see the light of day.
It happens.
And the parents, these young ladies, some have parents.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
Some of these parents would really wish to have justice. But again, it still comes back. There are threats. If you continue with the case, if I come back, I'll finish you. This infringed fear in the minor parents. Maybe the background of this young girl is very humble. They don't know who to approach. They don't know who to request support from. So you get it so hard as a parent to continue with the case, and you are pushed to even withdraw the case. After settling the matter at home, this girl still has the memory. What do you think happens even with the performance of this girl in school? What do you think happens if this girl sees the person, meets the person on the way? It's so hard. So to avoid all this trauma, I think we should ask the government, both the national government and the county government and the National Police Service, to help by use of law to punish these people.
Do you believe the policies that we have and the laws that we have are keen on ensuring that we do away with cases of abuse for our teenage girls and boys?
There is a percentage,
a good percentage that still we don't trust. National Police Service should be on the forefront, because they know very well this girl still has a future. She still needs to go far. What if now she's sad, she's home, the memory comes back every day,
At the end of the day, stress, the girl will run into depression because depression has no limit. It has no age. I think the best thing we can do, both parents and the government, is to use the law the right way without favoring the wrong person or the offender.
Yeah. And looking at your program of providing sanitary pads to our young girls, it's a project that you've been with. I'm quite sure when you started out perhaps a small number, but when people knew that you are doing this, a lot of people came in, kindly help us. What are some of the challenges that you guys are going through? I know, there are even logistical challenges.
I think those are the main challenges of financial stability, so that you can be able to sustain this program. We need finances. We need to have our money right. Like, you have like 20 schools you need to visit in a month. You are working with a number, and you have the number of pads you want to give each girl. Sometimes you just sit and you think, oh, where are we going to get this cash? How we are going to manage all this number? And that's why we are here. Sometimes we wish we can partner with other organizations, other well-wishers, those people who feel like when you touch this level of this girl, they say once, sometimes when you educate a girl, you educate an entire community. So you keep that in mind. This is your sister, this is your daughter. So I wish all of us can just come together, we hold hands. And also I'm thinking there's this issue of the government supplies mostly the male condoms. They're all over. When you go to the hospital, you'll know there are dispensers. You'll go somewhere and you'll get your condoms and you'll go use. Why can't we have such sanitary dispensers area where a girl, maybe she's going to school, she knows maybe tomorrow is my day, and she knows, she's confident, like, I'll find a sanitary towel, I'll continue with my studies, and unbothered. So they don't have to talk to maybe the border guys. There are some maybe uncles or other relatives who will still take advantage of them. So they just focus on their studies. I feel we should do something about that.
It's a very interesting and a very good way to bring it out, that we can have dispensers, or they know that if you go somewhere, you can just pick them up. Just like you see in the developed countries, there's somewhere you go and pick your newspapers, go and pick some freebies, which would actually help.
I feel like sanitary towel, I know it's a basic need to every girl who is at adolescent, from adolescent age. So why can't we find ways just to avail it to our girls?
And speaking of statistics, we've had the statistics of some of girls who have been abused, and others, a lot more, millions who are in dire need of sanitary pads.
Yes.
What statistics are we looking at? How many girls have we been able to help, or how many schools are in your program as we speak?
Okay, so far we've we were looking in the sub-county, but as from this year they have opened their schools. We are planning to go to the whole of, at least we cover the whole of the Komabe County. So we have a great demand for the sanitary towels. Yes, so any person who is outside there who might feel there's something we are doing and they feel in their heart that they want to be part of this, kindly, they are welcome. They can just tap. We have our drop point. It's at Beryl Medical Center. It's under God Will Provide. That's where we have them, because the program is supported by Beryl's Medical Center and God Will Provide.
And Lucy, perhaps to fortify what Joy has talked about in terms of the challenges, and how has the community embraced this project? Because I'm quite sure there are some people who say, I should help here. And as she's talking about drop-off points as well.
Community accepted this initiative with smiles, I might say, because it has reduced a budget to some parents and guardians, and they would always ask you to come to schools near them. They would always ask you to support the kids who are in most need, who most need this sanitary towel, even if it's a pack, 2 packets, 3 packets. And for sustainability, we don't just give sanitary towels and forget about these girls. We are hoping to keep it running throughout the year, so that we know in school A we have 246 girls. We need 3 packets per girl for the whole term, so that you don't give it the first month, the second month, then the third month. What will happen the third month? That is our question. If we give it the first and the second month, what will happen the third month? Is she going back to the border operator? Is she going back to the fisher folks? Because fish folks in Homa Bay County, they take after the border guys. So we are looking at it. How are we going to sustain these girls so that they don't go back to the old ways they were using to get sanitary towels? We are also asking the community to help us, not only by identifying girls who are in need, but also to support us. We have friends who would see this noble cause and they be like, I have 1 packet, I have a bale. We are not choosy. We are not setting standards. We are not having a minimum number that we are working with. If you want to support us, if you want to join us, we accept. If you are, it is 1 packet, we appreciate it, because it will go a whole month. This girl will not stay 3 days home because of her periods. She'll stay in school. And if you calculate the number of days, depending on the flow, there is a lady with a heavy flow. She can even flow for 4 days. That means in 1 term, she's going to miss school for 12 days. These 12 days, if you calculate it into her education input, it's like she's wasting a whole month.
Yes.
So we are trying so hard with the help of our friends. If we get partners, if we get good friends like you, we will keep all these girls throughout in school.
That's true, because actually, before you add on the same, I remember in our WhatsApp group that we formed, a primary school alumni, we have something we call PAD Marathon, or short form for PADthon, such that we contribute any amount of money within a duration of like 5 hours, and it's geared towards PAD for our former school back in my home county. Some of the gestures, at least we have some people in the media who can be able to disseminate this information, and at least most of the people in that group have either their businesses or they're employed like me, and that is what I could call the sustainability. But looking at your organization, the sustainability could be a challenge, because you will continue receiving more and more schools that would like to be assisted. How do we sustain this program? Because as you said, is that you haven't found a strategic partner, and the government has not yet chipped in as you would have wanted, but the program has to continue.
Okay, just even on a note, just maybe you can invite your friends. They can just come, maybe even a 1 month, and they can support what we are doing in Homa Bay County. And also on 22nd of February, we launched this program just to make it official, and we invited other partners. We told them we are open. We talked about it. We talked about the girls. So members around Homa Bay County know what we are doing. But now we are here it's good you invited us here. We are calling upon anyone so they feel they be part of this, because sustainability, for now, we still have to work with what we have. Because we don't want it to be, we just do away with it. So for now, we still have to work hard and work with what we have. And we pray that tomorrow we'll get someone, will give us maybe 1 bale, 1 carton, so that we continue. But now we're here, we're calling upon anyone who feel they need to support this, they're welcome. Yes.
And because of the interest of time, ladies, I'm going to give you each a minute and a half, so that you may make your appeal. Because what you're doing is something, it's quite a noble gesture that a lot of Kenyans would want to help. And you might not know, there might be somebody who is watching and may decide to give you a shot in the arm. Kindly. You think your camera is camera 2? Yes.
Thank you so much. For those friends, partners, organizations, business people who would want to support us, we are so open. You can find us on Facebook, Beryl's Medical Center Sanitary Towels Aid, under Beryl's Medical Center. And we also have numbers that you can call. The numbers that we are going to give, if you call them, you will get us, and we can organize. If somebody is far and he or she wants to drop, send, we can always faster. That is something that we have to respond very fast.
Exactly. You can tell them exactly where they can even drop off.
We have a drop-off point at Beryl's Medical Center in Oyugis Town along Kisii-Kisumu Highway next to Winimam Hotel. That is the pin or the location. You can also get us on Facebook under the name Beryl's Medical Center Sanitary Towels Aid. There is also a number that they can call. One of them is 0725-490-823.
And the other number is 0724.
Yes,
they can still call the 0724, though it's pinned 0724-907-632. It's on the Facebook page. Even if they can tap still under Beryl's Medical Center, they can still get led to the drop-off point. And so what I can add them, just think about your sister, think about your mother, think about any lady who is at that age. What would you feel? Kindly just have that heart to give. It'll change a lot. I'm a woman, I'm a lady, I know. So if you can get someone who can support on that, you'll always be appreciating them. They might not come and tell you, thank you, give me a pad, but a girl somewhere in reserve who has not been having access to this pad, they'll be really grateful.
Indeed, thank you so much. And of course, you've heard the ladies, is that in any way that you can help, let's do this. Let's help the ladies get the sanitary pads, and also let's follow the law, which says that everybody as a Kenyan, you are entitled to enjoying all the laws and everything that is in Kenya as long as you follow the law. So cases of abuse, let's report cases of abuse. Let us chip in where we can and uplift our ladies so that, of course, as she said, think about your sister, think about your mom. It's a noble gesture that will move a long way into assisting a lady and consequently a community. As we say, if you empower a lady, you've empowered the community. That's where we put a cap on this first hour. We've been talking about teenage pregnancies and assisting when it comes to matter sanitary, and also being keen to digress the retrogressive cultural practices that we have that are only detrimental to their growth and development. That's where we wrap it up, but don't go away. We are coming in with another panel of experts. We're discussing matters politics. A lot has been happening in the country, if you ask me, when we're looking at the race for the running mate. And also IEBC has a lot of challenges in the coming days. Discussing that in a bit. Don't go away.
Remember, jua kwamba hapo pale umesimama unaweza kufungwa. Nikisema ya kwamba wewe ni kutumiwa, unatumiwa
na nani
ili ukuje unimalize, naweza kuwa nasema wrong.
Watu wakanyweka na watu wanyweka na mtamani sana. Nasikia sorry sana kwa huyu mtu mzima.
Na wewe umezaliwa hiyo.
Mimi nimezaliwa hiyo county. Nimekulia hiyo county mheshimiwa. If I tell this honorable court that you are a fabricator, mlienda kutengeneza usaidi ya uongo ili kubalisha chance yangu ya kuwa governor ya Matopeni.
Lakini ukisema mambo ya matoatoa, that is a hate speech.
A hate speech.
Exactly.
Na mimi sikutumia hiyo.
Ulitumia hiyo.
Look at me.
Yes.
American high.
Yeah, you look like a hippo.
Ili kupata daktari wa tumbo kama sikiza tuni yako, bonyeza *811 *396#.
Alo, daktari. Nimekula githeri sahani ya kwanza, sahani ya pili, alafu sahani ya tatu. Nikapandilia avocado 2. Wakanilazimisha na mchele vijiko 7. Nikamalizia na kusafisha.
Kupata daktari wa tumbo, dial *811 *396#. *811 *396#.
Mtoto wapi?
Yuko ndani, bado daktari anamwangalia.
Na huyu mwanamke sitaki kumuona hapa.
Kawaida ya mwanamke anayemjali mtoto wake hukuwa katika hali hii wakati kama huu.
Mnaelewa vizuri sana ni sababu gani ambayo inatufanya tukae chini hapa pamoja.
Nice try.
Oh no, sweetheart. I was not trying.
So watakuniacha ma?
Nipe sababu ya kubaki na wewe.
Even if all what you're saying is true, I still won't go with you, okay?
You are an...
Very well then.
Your mother told me what you saw in the newspaper.
You've been lying to me. I know that you have another wife. No wonder you never sleep in this house with us.
You're merely covering up a lie with another lie. Stand by that promise you made to your son. Now's the time. Now's the time to divorce Ines. I'm so desperate, for heaven's sake.
Listen, Nuria, I have no idea what you're doing in Playa Linda, and I don't know what kind of trouble you're in, but I will not be your accomplice. Is that clear? So it really is true.
Adrian.
For IBC. All right, tuingie hadi sasa. Welcome back, and you are still watching KBC News Check, and on this second hour we're talking about matters politics. Well, we did bury our third president of the Republic of Kenya a few days ago, and at least Kenyans had toned down their politics for that 1 week or so, just as the president himself had said he wouldn't want politics in his funeral service. But after that and before then, there were politics, and now actually what is hitting so many headlines, and of course, guys, today's new, all the dailies today are talking about the running mate factor. We are going to be touching on that, among other politics that are taking part in the country. And joining me on set, we have on my immediate left, we have Dr. Churchill Sauke. Dr. Churchill is a governance and leadership expert and also a lecturer at the JKU Art. And just next to him, we have Ascon Kamili. Ascon Kamili is an advocate of the High Court and also a governance expert. And they will be helping us figure it out how these things, politics are going. Gentlemen, karibuni. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And beginning with the politics, at least for that 1 week, we were celebrating the lives and times of the former president. We Kenyans, for the first time, I think, we had kept aside all the politics, and we were just after nominations where there were heated political temperatures in the country. Doc, how would you say politics were in the last couple of days?
Well, I think that it was important to pay respect to the former president and give him a decent burial, and specifically in doing so, it necessitated that we keep our political differences. You remember, this was at one point a uniting factor for the whole nation. So his exit would equally be a unifying factor. And so it was necessary to keep aside political differences and give him a respectful send-off. And of course, it was seasonal. It was within the season of mourning for purposes of that respect. And as expected, after the burial, people went back to normalcy, the politics of the day, and the issues around the running mate questions. As expected, are beginning to emerge, and we expect even much more intense. Remember that the political temperatures are getting higher. We already are having faces into who is going to be in the presidential ballot itself. Who are the presidential candidates, and the next issue is who is going to be the next face in the running mates, especially amongst the key contenders. So the political debate is still going to move, and once the faces are already into the running mate candidates, the next thing is now the broil battle of garnering votes to win the August 8th.
Yes,
and
August 9th, politics and the running mate factor, and I'm quite sure here Ascon will help us greatly as you are an advocate of the High Court. It is, the law says that you have the 55 now that are cleared by the political parties but are still to be cleared by IEBC. But if all of them are cleared, we have a ballot paper of 55 candidates. I remember in high school we had paper 1A and paper 1B or something. I don't know, because the 55 names are quite many. But before you answer that, we do remember that today, being the 4th day of May, the Form 1s are joining their secondary schools, and now we are joined by Ann Boro, live from Mombasa, to give us a feel of how the Form 1s are beginning their secondary life. She is at the Mama Ngina Girls in Mombasa. And if you can hear me.
Good morning to you to Ben Njue at Broadcasting House, and we're coming live to you from Mombasa County. And right now I'm at Mama Ngina High School in Mombasa County, and the weather today is a bit cool. It's been raining for the last 2 days, and today, as you all know, it is the admission of Form 1s all over the country. And today we are here at the National School in Mombasa, Mama Ngina Girls, and I will be joined by the headmistress just to tell us the numbers this year of her admission and maybe what is different compared to last year in this year's admission. Karibu sana, madam. You start with your names first and then you introduce.
My name is Mrs. Marahamisi Omar, the Chief Principal, Mama Ngina Girls.
Maybe you could tell us the admissions this year. How many are you admitting this year compared to last year?
This year we are supposed to be admitting 288 girls. Compared to last year, we were admitting 250. So that's a rise, especially because of the 100% transition. So we are expecting 288 girls.
So again, compared to last year, definitely things have changed with how the admission is being done. So you could a bit tell us a brief of how the whole process is. And maybe how difficult it is for the parents, because most of the parents, I have realized that they come to ask for admission. Maybe they did not choose the school, so how do you go about it?
So far, Anne, I've not experienced any problem. The admission is very smooth. The girls that are coming were called to come to Mama Ngina Girls. I believe it's a school of their choice, and so far so good. We are admitting them very smoothly. The parents are very cooperative, and most of the parents have complied with what we requested for. And actually, as a school, we did not have overboards. We just requested for the basics, what is required, and we never requested for things that are never wanted by the government, or things that are not wanted in school are not in our adjoining instructions.
Maybe any hiccups in the admission so far?
So far, I can just talk about the weather. Because it's rain, it has been raining, and being a national school, most of our students are traveling from far and wide. So the biggest problem is actually the weather. But I believe by around 2 thereabout, we will be house full.
There has been also an issue that the students, most of them were not able to get the schools that they chose. And it has been lamented that maybe teachers and parents did not guide the kids well. So what is your advice maybe going forward?
I think every student and every parent wants the best school for their daughters, me included. But sometimes you don't get what you want, but rather what there is. So, and I think it is always good for parents and even the children to accept whatever school they get, as long as it is a good school. Because we cannot all fit at Alliance Girls, we cannot all fit at Kenya High, but I believe shule ni wewe, shule si kitu ingine. When you work hard in whatever school, you're going to make it.
The students are here. Maybe your advice to them, the ones who are joining Mama Ngina Girls today.
First of all, I welcome them to Mama Ngina Girls High School and wish them well throughout their 4 years journey as they undertake their education here. I believe they are going to make it because it is just about hard work. The secret to success is hard work, discipline and hard work.
You've heard it from the headmistress. Now I'll be joined by one of the parents who's also admitting a student here, who's just going to tell us how it's been the whole process. Maybe did they have enough time to do the shopping and all that. Utaanza na majina yako and then you'll just tell us how the whole process has been for the admission of your daughter.
My name is Maurice Chilumo, and I'm happy that the service delivery in this school is quite good. Yeah, we've been welcomed very well. We've been welcomed very well, and the process is excellent. Up to now, we have not foreseen any hiccups in the process, so we are happy.
Was this her choice of school first, or what happened?
She chose during the school selection process. She chose this school, and it happened that she was called at Mama Ngina. So we were happy because Mama Ngina's performance is quite excellent. As per the results which we've experienced the last 2 years, it's performing very well. Yeah.
So how has been the shopping so far? Because the other schools, that the requirements that they're being asked to bring, maybe is it what was in your list of the list that you're given with from Mama Ngina Girls? Was anything extra given to the list?
No, we just followed as per the admission letter, and we didn't find any difficulties because there are some contacts which they were included in that form, whereby we know exactly where we should get the items from.
Maybe any challenges you faced getting the uniforms and the requirements needed?
Challenges are there because the shop which we visited, it had some items were missing, so we had to wait for them to prepare them. But we are happy we've gotten everything. Yeah.
You can also talk to the student and maybe she'll tell us how she feels joining Mama Ngina High School as a national school and maybe the marks that you got.
Okay. My name is Frida Mnyazi, and I feel so happy coming to Mama Ngina Girls.
Maybe what is your advice to other students out there who have not gotten schools or are joining also Mama Ngina High School?
Okay, for the other students that have not joined the other schools, this 2022 candidates, this is a good school for real. If we compare the performance with other schools, this is the good school in Mombasa County. And please, I will advise them to work hard so that they come to Mama Ngina Girls. This is the best school in Mombasa.
You heard it from the horse's mouth. It is the first day of admission and everything is smooth here at Mama Ngina High School Girls. Back to you in studio, Njue.
That has been Ann Mburu there with the Chief Principal of Mama Ngina Girls in Mombasa, plus a parent together with his daughter there. On the first day of joining school, we are indeed the whole of this week. They were supposed to start the exercise yesterday, but because of Eid, they have started today. Gentlemen, they remind me of when I was joining Form 1, 96. Anyway, away from that, Ascon, we were talking about the ballot nightmare that will pose for IEBC even before we go to the candidates themselves. If at all, the 55 are cleared by IEBC. Of course, 9 are sponsored by their own political parties, but a large number is independent. But we're going to get to the independent part. But is it truly a nightmare for IEBC, and especially in publishing of the ballot papers?
Well, let me begin by where you started at the very outset, is on the funeral of our late President Mwai Kibaki. I don't know why those thinking that there shouldn't be politics during the service, I think it's because of the caution of the dirty nature of our politics, and maybe they didn't want to sling mud and mess up the funeral of such a big name in the country's politics. But you know, Kibaki is somebody who played politics for 50 years or thereabout. I think it would only have been fair if some pinch of politics was permitted.
All right. Hold the thought, please. Hold the thought. As we have Northern Kenya MPs have a presser at Parliament in regard to insecurity in the region. Let's first of all listen in as they are currently addressing the press. We're also going to look at insecurity.
Ya ukosefu wa salama kwa miaka 3 sasa, na kila wakati tumeweza kupeleka kilio chetu kwa serikali, kwa sababu mara kadhaa tunapata vifo kutokana na majambazi kutoka majirani ya Wajia, ya Garissa, Samburu na hata pande ya Marsabit kupitia constituency ya Laisamis. Lakini ya ajabu ni ya kwamba operationi kama hiyo sasa imesemekana common disturbed area tumewekanishwa na kaunti ya Marsabit ambaye vita zao ni ya kindani. Na tumekuja kushangaa kuna mahusiano gani kati ya Sololo, Marsabit na Isiolo, especially area ya Kom. Na watu wa Isiolo tumekuja kujua kwamba hii ni njama ambayo imepangwa kuangamiza wakazi wa Isiolo. Kwa miaka moja hivi sasa kuna wabonyenye ambaye tunawajua wamejaribu sana kufunga hiyo sehemu ambaye watu wa Isiolo ama Kenya mzima, kwa sababu mara ya mwisho tulikuwa pale ilikuwa tarehe 26 mwezi wa 3, na tumeweza kushuhudia karibu wa Kenya 5,000 na katika kila sehemu, watu kutoka Migori, Taita Taveta, Meru, Kisumu, Isiolo, kila pembe ya hii Kenya wakijaribu kujimudu kimaisha kupitia hiyo informal mining. Sasa kuja kufunga hiyo informal mining ambaye inasaidia wa vijana wale wamekosa kazi, wamama wasiojiweza, hapo ndio wanapata mapato yao. Sisi tumeona hiyo ni njama. Walikuwa wamejaribu kutumia neema kufunga, lakini kama viongozi tuliweza kujitetea na neema wakaona kweli hakuna ile mambo yote inahusiana na environmental degradation, wakajiondoa, wakajaribu kuleta vita pale, kuua watu, ndio watu watoroke. Wale wako na uwezo wa grab hiyo land pia ikawashinda, wakajaribu kutumia legal notice number 150 ile ambayo imepitwa na sheria, kujaribu kureverse community land and another form of ardhi. Hata hiyo tukapigana mpaka kotini tukawashinda. Sasa wanatumia Ministry of Interior kujaribu kutoa watu, na hiyo tunataka kusema kwa niaba ya watu wa Isiolo. Watu wamesema watakaa pale, hawatakubali kutoka, na kama ni kutoa watu labda serikali wakuje wamalize wale watu 5,000 ambao wameishi pale. Kwa hivyo mimi nasihi CS Cabinet Secretary wa Interior Fred Matiang'i ambaye ni rafiki yetu, tumetembea na yeye, anajua changamoto ya Isiolo na anajua ni nani anachangia hii mambo ya kujaribu kuangamiza watu wa Isiolo. Tafadhali usikubali kuambiwa maneno ambaye sio ya ukweli. Sisi tunasi sana ya kwamba tupatie nafasi kama viongozi tuweze kukueleza ndani ni mambo gani inaendelea pale. Lakini tukiona vile vita ya Marsabit na ya Isiolo inajaribu kuletwa pamoja na sehemu zingine zinawachwa, hiyo sisi tunaona kuna invisible hand ambayo iko huko nyuma, na kwa tukiendelea tutaendelea kumfichua, kwa sababu sisi tunajua ni nani anahusika na kina ni kundi gani, na tunasema tafadhali, hii ni wakati ambaye tunaenda kwa mbinu ya siasa. Sisi hatutaki umagaji wa damu iendelee, tunataka hii vita ikome, tunataka watu waendelee na maisha yao. Sisi operation ya kawaida hatuna shida, kwa sababu tuko na vita, tumepoteza maisha, hatutaki kutatiza serikali kwa namna yoyote kwa ile kazi yao wanafanya kufanya usalama, lakini tunasema hapo iko maneno, hapo iko mambo fiche, na sisi hiyo hatutakubali. Na niseme tu kwa niaba, kwa sababu sisi ni viongozi na tumetumwa kusema, mkileta jeshi pale, wale watu 5,000 mtawapata pale, labda mtoe hawa kama maiti, lakini ati kudisplace ama kufunga pale kutakuwa na resistant, na tunaomba serikali tafadhali msijaribu.
No.
Yes.
The main issue is the ban of the mining activities.
It is not even the ban, because if you look at what the order says, it is a combination of a ban together with, moving people out of that site. So banning and movement is two different things. They are not only banning, but even they are displacing people. So our question is, where will 4,000, 5,000 families go to if they are told to vacate that area? Yeah, because people have settled there. That's a settlement. I was there on 26th. They are making almost 10 million per day. They are generating money, and there's a community land. They have all the rights to do whatever they desire to do. So if we are saying, where will these families go to? It's not only about banning, they are told to vacate. Vacate to go where? Yes.
On which areas in the neighboring Samburu and Daisamis that you think should also be included in the spillovers of the ban?
The issue is not banning of the mining activity. There are people who are trying to twist facts.
That's a presser by MPs drawn from the northern frontier there, talking about the security, the insecurity or security of lack of it in the region. We're talking about Marsabit, Isiolo, Mandera, Laikipia, as well as Samburu are some of the counties that we have witnessed some cases of insecurity in the region, to the point that they have to contend with a curfew that was instigated by CS Fred Matiang'i, the Interior CS, and there are very strong words. Gentlemen, you've been listening to what she has talked about. Very strong words when it comes to talking about its politics.
Yeah.
And actually addressing the press was the Isiolo women rep, Jardesa, talking about, we know these people, talking about tycoons, they want to, they are displacing people, and very strong words that she has used that could be tantamount to incitement, if you ask me. And as you also start with your opening statement, apologies, it had to be interrupted. Kindly touch on security. When every year, every election cycle, we hear some fracas when it comes to the northern corridor.
As I was saying earlier, I was very concerned that President Kibaki, a person who has been in politics for over 50 years, was buried with, pinch of politics. Although the right hand of Raila Odinga, expressed that he was finding it very difficult on how to eulogize a person who has been a politician all through without talking about politics. But we understand the nature of our politics. It can get very dirty, and probably that is where the caution came from. Having said that, President Kibaki was a very good leader in Kenya. We know his track record, and we wish him a peaceful rest. Going on to the security question in Mandera and Isiolo, I'm very concerned by the choice of words of the Member of Parliament there. It points to the fact, or it points to the thinking that probably she's doing this for the camera, so that the people in the village or those that she represents can see that really we have a fighter, we have somebody who can voice out our frustrations and can stand for us. When in real sense, as a leader, I think they need to take a more sober approach to how to solve this security puzzle right there. You listen to what she says, there'll be resistance, there'll be death, people will rather die than vacate. And there is a court order, from what I heard from her, to the effect that the people there should be banned from accessing that place. And while the government has the responsibility to execute these orders and also to ensure that things happen correctly, there are also grounds, humanitarian grounds upon which there would be, genuine concerns as to the manner in which the government can undertake this. So it also behooves the government to find an amicable way of dealing with such issues. But also, having said that, there's something very fundamental here. Most cases of insecurity, particularly in areas like Laikipia, Isiolo, and those other areas, not most of the time or not all the time do they require that combative approach by the government. That really you send police officers there, you send the army or the disciplined forces to go there and deal with these people. Most of the time, I think the approach that needs to be used is the approach of beginning conversations right from the very basic levels, to get to establish why this insecurity happens. And also, having said that, I think I'm very concerned by this very routine way of doing things. You listen to a leader, they will tell you, we know these people. I've never had a leader who tells us, I know this person, and then goes ahead to mention that person by name, or really just go out there and share with the security apparatus that the people who are doing this are these people, and this is the intention. We had Duale when the question of Al-Shabaab was coming up and spotting, Duale came out on TV and said, we know the people who are supporting this Al-Shabaab, we know the people who are doing this, and he refused up to date to give us the details of these people. So I'm very concerned when leaders take this grandstanding and take this opportunity to sell themselves as though they are real fighters of the community, and not seeking to genuinely find solutions to this problem. The other time, Mr. Sudi, or Honorable Sudi, was out there threatening how he knows the manner in which Msando was killed, he knows who participated, but they never go out there to give these details to the right authorities. In fact, I think it only hurts than it helps. It's not a way of solving these problems. It's just a way of grandstanding and posturing out there to the common person that really we are the people who are fighting for you just for political capital. It's a very wrong approach, and they need to be called out for that.
Yeah, of course, Doc, we will let you in on this because as Ascon has talked about, is that it's not the first or the second or the third time that we've had a leader talking about there are a group of people who are doing A, B, C, D, but we are not going to be knowing that as Kenyans. And talking about CS Matiang'i being a friend of ours, and we have had security meetings with the CS, and then you talk about, we know these people, tycoons, on camera. Doc, this has to end, because every time they know people but they don't report these people. If you know a person, you are supposed to bring out that name, and that person is either prosecuted or investigated so that we may curb this. But incidentally is that all these skirmishes in the northern frontier, they are exacerbated each and every time we have an election cycle.
Exactly. I think there is a lot of politics that that is interplay, especially in the conflict in the northern Kenya. And I think for a long time, apart from areas like Baringo, when you look at Marsabit, the Isiolo area and the Sololo, the politics of the day is always at play a lot, especially the clan politics, because you see the clans have got a huge say on who becomes the leaders there, and so that fuels the jostling amongst those clans. And the issues around mentioning of names, and sometimes these are politicians, they do their politics, and sometimes they might know, it's one person to presumptively know that somebody's fueling a conflict. It's another thing to have the facts. So they might be speaking some of those things out of presumptions, but if they are told to give the facts, they cannot be able to justify, and that could actually put them in courts of law. So they tend to do this through lip service to gain political mileage, and also to show that they are doing something. Sometimes they do it to invoke the institutions, to if they are not able to influence their directions, like for example some of those orders, maybe they were against them, so they are trying to come out in public to rebut so that they catch the eye of the authorities. So but all in all, the politicians really have a big role to play in bringing, as my colleague says, working with government to come up with a more structured conversation that will bring a sustainable peace in that region. Because the fact is that in as much as there is the quest for, the idea of resources, like the women rep is saying, the people who are fueling these things are the politicians. Okay?
And actually, the Hawads could not do any better.
Exactly. They're the ones who are fueling these conflicts. And the government will come with what the government can do. And sometimes when a politician speaks, it is very difficult for government officials to counter it, because the people hear more their politicians because they speak out of emotions, and so they are able to relate more with the people. So my thinking would have been that there would be something, the leader should have a much more proactive way of solving these issues. And when I look at that press conference, I mean, it's not representative of everyone.
Yeah, true.
It's not representative. So already there are factions. So that tells you it's not one voice. So that tells you that the action she's taking is more reactive and is not necessarily really going to help in bringing a structured engagement towards bringing a sustainable peace in that area.
And of course, we hope that we're going to see more fruits from actually the exercise that was started by the CS a couple of days ago. But away from that, let's go back to IEBC. And first of all, the presidential nightmare, because if at all of them are verified by the IEBC. The political parties has cleared them, but if they are cleared by IEBC, it means we have over 50 candidates, 50 symbols, and that could be a nightmare. And other than that, they are supposed to be given a security by the government for the running mates, for the candidates and the running mates. So we are talking about 100.
Which is quite
it's quite a nightmare
on the local or the common person. But the ORPP, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, they consider very little when it comes to clearing candidates. The real thing is at the IBC, where quite a number of factors will be considered. Even by now, if I were to ask any of us here, how many presidential candidates do we know today? While it is said there are 45 or 50, we probably only know 3 or 4 of them, which is the right hand Raila Odinga and William Ruto and some maybe 2 others. So there are so many factors that shall be considered by the IEBC. And don't be surprised that even some of them will not be able to garner the 2,000 in number of secondaries that are needed to be cleared by the IEBC. In fact, most of them will not, because you need to have spread this across 24 counties. I'm not sure they will, or maybe they'll bribe their way out of it, but a number of factors will be considered, and I think IBC will clear the best of the best. I remember last time there were also quite a number of them who had positioned themselves to be cleared by the IBC to contest as president, and they were dismissed on several grounds. Others might not even have qualifications as a degree or such basic things. Others just doing it just for appeal out there so that it's on record that they were part of the process. So there are so many factors that shall be considered, and I hope that IBC will do the right thing by giving us the best of the best, so that Kenyans get a chance to choose the next leader from a pool of the very best. But also, having said that, we don't want to dismiss them as such, because our constitution provides that when you want to go for a political position, you're given that chance. It is upon the people to decide whether they want to elect into that position, or they don't want you to be elected in that position. So therefore, we also want to encourage people at the very basic level as MCA, at the very basic level as MP, even as senator, governor, woman rep, just go out there and contest. If the people wish to give you a chance, they will do it. So democratically, I think they should be given a chance, but only the ones who merit to be given that chance.
Okay, Doc, and still on independent, other than the presidency, we have noticed that a lot of Kenyans now will be vying as independent candidates, as opposed to 2017 and 2013, where most of the candidates were sponsored by their own parties. But this time around, there's a paradigm shift in the way that people look at elections, and a lot of them decided, a lot wanted to be independent candidates only after they lost the party primaries. But this time around, the independent candidates Some of them were talking about independent candidates even before the nominations, meaning that they had made up their mind a long time ago. Is this something that we are going to be seeing here in Kenya, and what does it talk about our democracy?
I think that, you know, our democracy is one that is it's one that is in progress, and I think this is one of the ways in which we are progressing. Remember that when you talk about democracy, you're talking about the capacity of a society to make their own decisions, and the people have capacity to make their own decisions, especially political decisions, and the institutions are free enough to enable them make that decision. And even if regulations are there, they're regulations that have been established by the people. So in saying that, therefore, when you have more independent candidates, irrespective of the logistical issues that will arise in the electoral process, it is an advantage in the political architecture, because then it shows that people already embracing multiplicity of political voice. People are beginning to accept that, you know what, we can be able to have independence of thought. And you know, when you look at even some of the areas that were strongly that certain political parties had very strong grip on, you're already beginning to see people are beginning to rethink. And I think that this will be good in terms of just opening the country and sort of what I will call creating a new political mix within the country, to the extent that political parties no longer form themselves on the basic of ethnic cocoons. So what I'm expecting, maybe as time goes by, that these independent candidatures will in future end up into having, you you even have Jubilee in areas like Luo Nyanza, or ODM in areas like Central Kenya, or we need to have that thinking of independence that is out of what has been there in history, and this is part of that process. So there are regions in this country that are realizing that, you know what, aligning to specific political parties is not good enough for our people. Maybe it is just helping us to serve the political party interest and not necessarily our people. If the best way for me to serve my people is to become independent, then there be it. So as time goes by, we will be having people more servant leaders who are ready to serve the people. And for me, I think this is something that is very progressive, and something that this country and the people of this nation really needs. They need to interrogate these independent candidates in equal measure as those who are in specific parties, however big those parties are.
I concur, because in some regions, after you take the ticket, the party ticket of a certain political party, it's more or less like
the election is over and done.
It's a done deal.
Right.
But away from that, Asko, let's say the 50-plus candidates are cleared by IEBC as well. And of course, we have paper A and paper B or something like that. Or we just have to do the 55 names in one paper. The Constitution talks about, if at all, a candidate or a running mate dies before the general election, the elections will be pushed by 60 days. That's 2 months. I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but it's something. It's a scenario that can be there.
Right.
So what happens after that? The law doesn't say after those 2 months, if somebody else dies, we push for 2 months. Till when? Or what exactly? You are an advocate of the High Court.
It's not as flexible as such, and no wonder then we demanded that the government provide security for all these candidates if they are cleared by the IEBC. And this speaks to maybe if one of them in some mischievous, with some mischievous intentions goes out there and maybe does something to one of the candidates because they don't want to go into the elections. We are left in a position where we have to abide by the law, but also in a position where the country is thrown into confusion. So While that is a position of the law as now, we only have to live by the fact that we are hoping that everything works well and that our elections are done as anticipated in the law. So it is upon the government right now that once the IBC takes a position on the number of candidates that we are going to have, then the government must provide security to all these people, unless when, through natural circumstances, then we lose one of them, then we shall progress from that position henceforth. But as I'd said, I don't see IBC clearing 50 candidates. It's while it's their right to be part and parcel of the process, it's some sort of a mockery to the process of electing a president, because really Kenyans need to be given a chance to pick from the best, and that is why the IBC is the sieve through which we can drop some that we feel do not merit to be given that chance and pick the very best so that Kenyans can pick from. So then it goes back to the IBC that really Kenyans have given them as an institution a chance to help them sieve through and get the right people on the ballot. But also saying, considering the fact that we are dealing with an electorate that is not very exposed and is not very well informed. Having over 50 candidates or over 50 people on a ballot paper would even create confusion and might not really give us results that depict the true picture of the position that would have been taken by the electorate. Others would go there and look at the pictures. The other one is maybe resembling the other one. They're not be able to pick the right candidate, or maybe so it becomes a confusion of some sort. So those are technical issues that I think the IBC will consider, not really to dismiss them on the basis of denying them a chance to participate in the process, but to dismiss them on the fact that there are particular factors that have been put in by the Constitution that they'll be able to consider and pick the very best out of them.
Okay, and
this is a very good chance to become a presidential candidate. You have a security in the next 3 months.
you remember what happened in Uganda when they were having that election. I think there were quite a number of candidates, and I think the government had provided security for almost each of them.
Yes.
And there was a lot of, fracas and confusion. Somebody would be going to campaign in this direction, another presidential candidate is coming from the other, the securities are fighting, they're just looking for some. Yes. So it's some sort of confusion, but I think that is a position of the law, and maybe we have to abide by it.
Okay, Doc, looking at the deputy president, it was the vice president back then, and even our third president, as we laid him to rest, he had issues with his boss, who was President Moi. We going back to time immemorial. We have issues where even we had President Moi and his vice president
and even Kenyatta and
Jaramogi. It goes back. Is more or less talked about how jinxed this position is, because as we are talking right now, we have 3 months to the general polls, and some organization and some groupings are talking about, let's sit down and have a secretariat. Like now we're expecting a presser, Azimio, a secretariat on the modalities of how they're going to pick the running mate. Does it just talk about how now, other than being jinxed back in the day, now a president and his deputy are joined to the hip, just like we see in our government since we passed the constitution?
Yes, you see, when you look at the reason why the idea of a president running with his running mate came about was because in the previous constitution, the president could be able to dismiss his vice president even on the roadside at any time. And people felt that there was need to bring dignity into the person who becomes a vice president and give him some sort of a security of tenure. And that has been provided for by the constitution. But then in that so doing, when you look at the power play and the chess play all through history, you will see that most of the people who are always elected as vice presidents, they always have strong political capitals in their specific regions in the country. And the presidency, where the presidency here at any given time through history, the presidency here means the president, the people around him will always be careful to protect the president and to protect his succession. right? And to make the succession be in accordance with what they think would be better. And that succession might never necessarily be on a vice president. So you will always find that there is always that war between the boss and his principal assistant, because you are trying to protect your position and also to safeguard your succession. Now, that's the same thing that you're now beginning to see. Previously, it was possible for a president to, if, for example, I have X, Y, Z as my principal assistant, and I am seeing that he is not going to be in the good mix in my succession plan, then you can dismiss him or her. Now, in this case scenario, it is different, where the person you select as a deputy president, you have to stick with him or her until the end of the term. So it is until death do us part, and death doing you part is when the term comes.
Ben, yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
You are through.
Yeah. So
now, Ben, we can't do these things in the same fashion every other time and expect different results. We have seen the manner in which the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto has been met with serious trouble. We have a deputy president who could go out on a podium and literally insult their boss. We have the president in an exchange with the deputy president. I think it's something that we wouldn't want to be doing over and over. And I think no wonder the Azimio Secretariat are very clear on the manner in which they want to do this. And I think it's an opportunity for Kenyans. And we should give a pat on the back to the Azimio team, because for a very long time, we have not taken our politics very seriously. When we want to pick a judge, they are taken through a vetting process. They're taken through an interview. But even when we want to pick a teacher in a school, we take them through an interview process. When we want to pick even a house help or a house manager at home, a small interview is conducted to ensure that we pick the best of the best. Now, why does it, appear as though it's a very wrong thing to do?
Because actually it has been met with criticism.
No, even the deputy president had tweeted to that effect today, and I was left surprised at how hypocritical it could be. Because the deputy president just the other day was out there telling us how he had been subjected to an interview alongside a lady and a gentleman for the UDA party ticket as their presidential candidate. Now today he's out there, he's telling us how he's wondering why a person of Kalonzo Musyoka's stature would be subjected to an interview. Well, I think that's very wrong of him, because what are we teaching our generation? What are we teaching our young people? That being subjected to an interview is a wrong thing? No. They should know that each and every position that somebody gets should be on the basis of merit, and having proven the full glare of cameras and when people are part and parcel of the process that really you merited for that position. Just as I said, why would we want to subject a surgeon who is going to operate on you so that you don't die, go through an interview so that you get the best surgeon, when the surgeon who is going to take care of our economy, we are very jittery, and we don't want them to go through a process that could give us proper results. So out there it should be pointed out to the people that what Azimio Secretariat is doing is what should be replicated across. And even our presidential candidates are going to go through a live TV interview. The presidential debate is literally an interview.
Yes.
Because you're going to be asked questions on what you want to do, what how you want to do it, why you're taking that position, what is your position on corruption, what is your position on specific issues that hurt this country or that are affecting the economy of our country. If the presidential candidates are going to go through an interview of that magnitude, why then should we run away from an interview to ensure that we pick the best match for him as their running mate? And the tragedy is we have often reduced the question of a running mate to numbers, and this is the tragedy that William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta ran into when the biggest factor they were considering is the fact that they were at the ICC, and two, they wanted to galvanize numbers, consolidate numbers. It's more beyond numbers and tribal tribal arithmetic on how to get the bigger vote, and how, of course it's a factor, but it cannot be entirely about that, because we have the question of what is your moral standing in the society, what you believe in as a person, and what is the chemistry between you and the person you're supposed to work with. We could have numbers in William Ruto and Raila Odinga, but I don't think William Ruto and Raila Odinga stand for the same thing. I wouldn't want to see a ticket where the Raila Odinga is the president and William Ruto is deputy, because they don't believe in the same thing. While Raila Odinga has been very unequivocal,
and they have numbers.
They have the numbers. If we are looking at numbers, we would have Raila Odinga and William Ruto on the same ticket, and that would be the election would be over and done with. But what are we looking at? Does Raila Odinga stand for the same thing that William Ruto stand for? Raila Odinga has been very unequivocal on the question of corruption. We have heard the UDA speak to the effect that corruption is not an issue for them. So these are two different people. So for me, the running mate puzzle is not entirely about numbers. It's not entirely about picking somebody just to pass time or to get you on the ballot with. It's about picking the right person who merits to be given that job, picking somebody who has a chemistry with the person they're going to work with, and picking somebody who will be able to be submissive to ensure that they're able to work with their boss, because we only have one president. We don't have two presidents.
Yes.
So if we are going to work with the president, you must know that the Constitution, clearly defines the roles of a deputy president as to being subordinate to the president.
And do you concur with what Wakili is talking about here, Doc? Because we are running into a risk of having a cold government, just like the one we have right now, where we have a lukewarm working relationship between the president and his deputy. We are running a risk of having such the same kind of government.
Yes, just from where I left, and as I answer your question, the whole question of, you see, when you have a specific term limit for two people who are going to be in a marriage, you, at the beginning, you must get it right. You have to get it right just the same way when you're looking for your wife.
Yeah.
You have to get it right, because you get it wrong, it is going to affect your politics, it's going to affect the way you implement your manifesto, it might even affect your international stature. So this is the point where all the presidential candidates, and I think it is important for us even to look at this beyond even the Azimio, and even look at all the other, they are called, you said 58 presidential, 55 presidential candidates. This is something that they have to take seriously and look at and get it right from this point. Because if they get it wrong, it's going to be wrong throughout the entire 5 years.
We have the same government that we have right
exactly. Now. And I think that in a more open-minded manner, and I think also Kenyans need to see, the questions about selection of a running mate in democracies, like, for example, where it was drawn in the US, I mean, the parties there would always come up with a panel.
Right.
They always come up with a panel that vet the various candidates that can be best fit to be presidential running mates. And so I think this is, apart from the fact that it is an international best practice, it is also something that is good in the sense that it teaches our political systems on institutionalization of processes. That our selection processes are not about one-man shows. Because when you look at how, for example, as Wakili has said, the way in which the questions about vetting has become a culture in our country. And because it has become a culture in our country, it is only important and only good for any political institution to institutionalize it in themselves. So that in that case, therefore, we will always believe that, in the minds of people, we are already inculcating in our minds and in our thoughts that you are subject to institutions.
Yeah.
Right? And that gives you accountability. You are not your own man. You are accountable to institutions. That's the same way the president is accountable to the legislator. You must be accountable to an institution, you yourself, when you are a running mate. And one of the ways in which you make somebody accountable is to take him through a vetting process. And I think that for me, I look at what the Azimio has done. I would most obviously advise all the other, like the Kenya Kwanza and all the other factions to consider doing the same and look at it more broadly, as you know, on a more structured way. Think beyond the numbers. The faction should think beyond the numbers and see that, you know what, we want to win election. What do we want to project to our people? Once we are ready, for example, they come here and take Ben Troy Njue as the running mate, even if you do not have political capital, but you are just showing that, you know what, Ben Troy Njue has got capacity to become the principal assistant of Kenya. And that is now what you project to the people, and people will elect you on the basis, you know, people don't elect you. We need to make people to understand that, you know, we are not electing you because you are bringing votes for us from somewhere or some part of the country, but we are electing you because you have the stature to become a president or a vice president of Kenya.
Wakili, is it because our politics are so, for lack of a better word, so tribal that we have to look at numbers when we are looking for a deputy president? And somebody said we could do it like Sonko had done in 2017, where Sonko was a politician and Igade, being the deputy, was the manager. Perhaps that can cure the issue that we always have to look at. I'm bringing this vote, so I need to be second in command, where your troops are saying, no, our guy has been holding your hand since 2013. Could that be a solution?
Well, it is important to acknowledge that democracy is entirely based on numbers, or if not entirely based on numbers, on the bigger part is based on numbers. In fact, an election is only declared on the basis of numbers. However, the Supreme Court in the last election, you know, mentioned a few things about the process and the the fairness in the manner in which an election is conducted. Big time, it's about the numbers. Who wins? How many votes did you get? So I think it's quite a factor that we can't really dismiss as such. We have to, you know, accept the fact that a presidential candidate, while they're looking at other factors, must look keenly into the question of numbers. And unfortunately, our politics is designed around tribes and communities and how to bring them together. The very unfortunate bit, but that is across the world. You know, if you go to the US, there's the question of blacks and whites, there's racism everywhere. You know, there's a way in which
just the numbers have to pop up.
There's a way in which people you know, politics is designed in every setting. So I don't want to blame our politics for that, but I think I want to talk to the presidential candidate, in the sense that the presidential candidate, given that opportunity to make such decisions, should go beyond the numbers as such. Or it doesn't necessarily mean that when you go for the numbers you get the least qualified. You could go for the numbers and get the most qualified. You could go for the numbers and get the best out of the ones that you have on the table. You know, like you're talking about Sonko and the Igade question. They couldn't last 3 months. Why? Because while they were looking at the numbers and camouflaged as you know, a manager and a politician of some sort, no, it doesn't work like that. I'm not very happy with the approach Kenyans think to give leadership and governance. We think that leadership and governance is not very important. We could have our Ititu as governor and give him a Dr. Nyoro as the deputy. Well, the buck stops with the governor. It doesn't stop with Dr. Nyoro, his deputy. That's true. The buck stops with Sonko. It doesn't stop with Igade as his deputy. Therefore, we need to get the best as the governor and give him even a more qualified as their deputy to assist them. So I'm not very warm to the idea that, you know.
And then even as I went, there's something that I think we need to understand again. You know, there is a difference between management value and public value. You can be of value management-wise, because you see, management is about profit-making. But in public and governance, it's about the good of the public, making policies that are of the good of the public. So you can be a good manager in a corporate manager, but not necessarily a public manager.
And as he
10
say-
seconds.
All
10
right.
seconds.
As he says that, I think I'm very happy with Azimio personally, for the very simple fact that today I think Azimio is spoiled for choice. They have the best of the best they could pick from, and it's a challenge to the panel that has been given that responsibility to sieve through and give Kenyans the right person who can give this country value for their time and their vote.
All right. And between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, who do you think have an easier job in selecting the running mate?
It's quite a puzzle, but I think William Ruto will get it very difficult because he's been the biggest or the worst example of a deputy president.
Right.
If he goes for anybody like him, he'll suffer the consequences.
Okay, Andy.
I think that the first person who is going to bring out the shot will affect the other.
All right. That's a good answer. Thank you so much for watching. I've been hosting Dr. Churchill Saoke, who is a governance and leadership expert and also a lecturer at the JKU Art. And we also have a lawyer, Ascon Kamili, who is an advocate of the High Court. We're looking at the deputy, or the running mate factor, and also looking at the politics of the day, which included security or lack of it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm now giving rise to my colleague who will take you through Tamrini and Kurunzi Mashinani first. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ben Troy Njue, and I think we had Susan Thuku on a sign language interpreter, but now we have a new face. Thank you so much. And of course, let me give the baton to the Swahili desk.